Peace. Welcome to the most prolific, the most informative podcast out on the internet or in the streets. This is No Truths Barred. This is episode 77. And if you've missed any of the previous 76 episodes, they're available on Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And also, I want to take the beginning of this episode to thank everybody that shared a piece of content, click the like button, decide to follow the YouTube channel. I deeply appreciate it. I'm continuing to grow this platform on a daily basis, so I'm appreciative of that. So without further ado, I want to get into tonight's episode. I have two really awesome guests on. I can be rather verbose in my introduction. So I have Dave Bay and I have the sister Arreal on, and these are really two incredible people that I have on. So I'm going to take a brief step back. I'm going to go ahead and let Dave introduce himself first. Give you guys a little bit of background about himself. And Ariel, you can go after Dave and just kind of give the people a little bit of a background about yourself as well.
Peace. So give thanks. I'm familiar with the No Truth Bars podcast, No Truth Bar podcast. I'm familiar with Brother Hoy Kwaku Timmons and his work. And I'm grateful to be here sharing space with him and my sister Ariel. My name is David Ali Bay. I'm an educator. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a parent, and I stand on truth. I stand on truth after dealing with other things that in life have not been so true. So just here to share the truth on the No Truth Bar podcast. Peace.
No doubt, no doubt. And let me go next to my sister Ariel, the powerful Ariel. What's going on? Let the people know a little bit about you.
Hello, my name is Ariel. I go by R.I.S.E. So a little about myself. I'm one of the co-founders of R.I.S.E. One of my close friends, me and Ebony, founders of R.I.S.E. We have David Bay, who's on here with us. He's the executive director, so he's a key member of R.I.S.E. Also, I am an author and self-publisher. You can go follow my publishing Instagram page at Generational Press. So that's a little bit about me.
All right, and you know me, I'm the host of this thing, and I'm a motor mouth, so I'm just gonna keep it moving. Once again, I want to thank both of you all for coming on, and I kind of been chasing these two down for a while now. They've been avoiding me, they've been ignoring me on Instagram. They've been like, "Yo, get out of my face!" And then after years and years of begging, they finally came on. But no, all jokes aside, I'm thankful for having them on. So it's going to be dope because they have some really dope and really astute and wise perspectives on a lot of the topics we're going to get into. So we actually recorded a previous episode, but due to technical difficulties, the episode was lost. And we were building on a lot of topics. So one of the things that we were building on last time is that if you are a habitual user of social media, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, whether it's YouTube, if you're on these sites, one of the things that's becoming a little bit more frequent is that there's always a post where you have Black men tearing into Black women. So a lot of Black men will say things that, like Black women are masculine, Black women have attitudes, Black women will never make good wives. You see these things and they're becoming a lot more frequent. And on the opposite end, you see Black women, they're saying that, Black men are, they're not basically worth anything. They're losers, they're bums, they're toxic. And the problem here is that this vitriol is so common and is shared so frequently. And I remember coming across a video that this guy had made. I think his name is Charity Crop. I think that's his name. And he made a video that went viral, millions of views. And the video was Black men are the white people of Black people. And basically what he was trying to say is that within the Black community, we are the equivalent of what racist white people would be towards the Black community as a whole. And what bothered me about that is that nobody really scrutinized that argument. Nobody really tried to bring forth any sort of perspective to that. and it just went viral. And now I'm seeing videos of when Black men and Black women tear each other down, they go viral. So I want to first start by asking, which I did last time, and I'll give this question to Ray. Why do you think that is now? Why do you think it's so popular for us to get on these social media platforms and to continuously tear down one another?
Well, I think it comes from, well, the root issue is, I think it's the generational trauma that we have as Black people in America. There's a system that has been created to put the Black man and Black woman against each other, to tear down the Black family, which is the core of the Black community. So with all the systems that were created and all of the methods that were used to break up the family, the Black family. So now it seems like it's kind of normal for the Black man and the Black woman to fight against each other instead of building together, because of the years and years of systemic oppression and the different ways that the Black family was torn apart. So as I explained, I think it's now being normalized, and we're thinking that's what's normal for us. Instead of us building together, we're tearing each other down. We think that we are the enemy, each other. So it's just an embedded in our subconscious that we just think that it's normal to do.
Yeah, it's definitely a pathology where we believe and we're being groomed to see one another as the enemy instead of looking at it like this. Like you said, the family is from where the education starts, the generational wealth starts, and then from a spiritual level, we're carrying on the energy, we're carrying on the memory of our ancestors. And so it's imperative for us to combat against this toxic rhetoric. And so I want to swing this over to Dave. Same question I gave to Ray. What's your opinion on this? Like I said, in the last episode and this one, I'm posing the same question. It's so preponderant and it's so pervasive, and it seems to go viral. And what's your take on that? Exactly why that may be?
All right, so I'm a reference my T-shirt. All right. Okay. First of all, second of all, I'm not going to disagree, but I have a premise. I have a psychoanalysis of this, and my psychoanalysis is that Black men, we have not been groomed by other accountable, warrior, fatherly Black men. In my culture, we say the Black man is God. Who is the Black man? He's the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, the father of civilization, and the God of the universe. So if you haven't created and then made and then owned, your culture, your spirituality, your ancestral veneration, your land, your property, your family, because if you haven't owned that so that you can be a father and a provider, then you don't see yourself as an accountable man, and so then you make all of these excuses and you take all of these back routes to things that don't even equate to saying, I'm not even doing what I'm supposed to do, right? So while everybody's job and everybody's calling isn't going to be a father, isn't going to be a husband, isn't going to be the development of the Black family to keep on what R.I.S.E said, which is our community core, which is the Black family, we still have to be an account for tearing down the Black woman or scrutinizing the Black woman or, kind of escaping or scapegoating what would be empowering our sisters and our queens or our compliments. Which she said, when we start to empower them, when we start to be ourselves, our natural selves, really find who we are, and talking about ancestral veneration, the woman was always the way. They say the wisdom is the way. The woman was the way. The woman was, we could reference the Ashanti tribe, we can reference the Misorientation, we can reference the Malian Empire, we can reference the ancient civilizations or the Nile Valley civilizations, or, you know, we could go on and on and on about the woman's divine, you know, energy and place in the world. But the thing is that, as she referenced, their system is still working against us and working within us, where in which we haven't taken account for who we are and what we're doing right now. Because again, as I said on the last time when we didn't get to record, you know, we're at war. Like, I'll say it every time, we're at war. We're being warred on, our mind, our families, and our men, women, and children. We're at war. So if you're at war, you kind of got to know it and then take the place of what's called a warrior, you know, and that's self-development, that's accountability, and that's figuring out what you're doing so then you can stand or rise up and not blame other people for what's going on within our communities, our families, and our nation. You know, we got to be men. We got to take account. We got to not blame other people. We not going to tear our sisters, our women, and our compliments down, because all we're doing is pulling the rug from in front of us.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think it has to be. So, for example, you know, when you look at, if we're looking at pre-colonial times, and we're looking at these various cultures, you know, you mentioned a few. You can look at the Wolof, you can look at the Mende as well. You know, these different cultures and groups. I think, in addition to the deification, they also recognize that everything is dualistic. You know, everything is based on a masculine and a feminine principle. It's a homeostasis that I think we're out of whack with. And the problem too is that what we do is we're harder on ourselves than we are with other people. So, for example, Black men will have certain standards and requirements for Black women that we wouldn't put on women that weren't Black if we were to date them or to try to be in any sort of circumstance with them, and vice versa. And so we kind of have a way of trying to build standards that aren't really innate to us culturally that we're supposed to abide by and hold one another to. And so I think that is another potential problem in that mix as well. And I think, you know, when you look at just kind of our current culture, when you look at it, it's based upon viewing a woman as a commodity. Like, you view her person, her being, as something to be possessed. Like, even when you talk to a man, he'll say, "That's my woman." He's not looking at the sister as an integral part of building with to create a family structure. You're looking at the possessiveness. You're looking at, how can I control her? How can I dictate her autonomy? She belongs to me. And so I think we have to move the scale to a more African-centered perspective, or we're looking at it from the Ma'at, or if we're looking at the Igbo, they'll say like Iwa Pele, when you're studying the science of masculine and feminine energy. And that's not just in the corporeal form. This is just basic elemental on a subatomic structure as well. And let me add to that. I was on a podcast in London called Whole Division Podcast. Shout out to them. They had me on the other week. And someone brought up the concept of these YouTube guys, right? And someone brought up the guy, Kevin Samuels, this cat. And I think we even talked about him in the last podcast, right? And I remember, like, I caught some of his videos, and what I noticed is that the problems that Dave highlighted, what Arreal highlighted, he's almost celebrated for perpetuating that sort of rhetoric. And so I want to bring that up because him and some of these other like Black dating guru guys, you know, I see it on Twitter. I see a lot of different things kind of being spread. One, I just want to get your opinion on this guy and the information that he puts out there. Like I said, I have a lot of critiques myself, but when we're talking about the way in which we view Black women and vice versa, he's one of those huge voices with one of those gigantic platforms that is seeming to influence a lot of Black men, a lot of young Black men at that. And so, Dave, could you build on that? Like, just overall, what's your opinion on that cat? If you're familiar with him or his message, just give your opinion.
Pardon me, I was on mute. A lot of, you know, so a lot of my colleagues and immediate, you know, I would consider them family, friends, community and collegiate friends, family, colleagues are psychotherapists, Black social workers, psychologists, licensed professional counselors, and you know, they deal with psychology, counseling, and therapy, specifically for our people. You know, they cater to our people. And so one of them, which is my sister, professor at NYU at New York University in New York, she speaks to that notion that you mentioned. And for me, it's nice to look nice. It's nice to speak eloquently. It's nice to you know, to be able to speak on our social conditions in adult relationships and the layers of it and the things that happen. However, we need to very much distinguish where we are in time, who's coming from a worldview thought of the white man versus who's coming from the worldview thought of, you know, us as original people of African descent. And that's where we, you know, Dr. Kobe Cambon, you know, my brother, the ancestor, Dr. Kobe wrote this book, which I have right there. It's called Cultural Misorientation. And the book goes into distinguishing and itemizing and really looking at how we develop our lives from an African worldview or the worldview of a people of African descent in modern era versus people, you know, from a European worldview or the white man or the European man's worldview. And so when I listen to Kevin Samuels, I really kind of take that perspective because, yeah, he speaks very, very, very truthfully on a lot of the layers of things that we deal with in the dichotomy of social relations, such as dating, you know, sex, expectations, you know, being direct and things like that. But for us that want to develop our family, develop our children, and disassociate ourselves from the structures that were created to infuse the racism, infuse the division of the man and the woman, that I feel strongly that he plays into that and not against that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And Ray, if you can, you know, or if you would like to, you know, what's your opinion on this dude and some of that information and rhetoric that he puts out there?
Yeah, so I agree with Dave. He's coming from a perspective of the Eurocentric mind frame on how the males, European males, view the women. So going back to where I spoke of the war against the Black man and Black woman, so he's contributing to that, being so that America, again, as I explained, America set up the systems to put the Black man and Black woman against each other. They took away, you know, our original heritage, language, culture, so we don't know who we are. So America told Black men and Black women who we're supposed to be. So we're continuing to play into what they told us what to be. So we look at this culture, this Black culture, as our culture, when in reality is not our original culture. So we're just playing into the Eurocentric mind frame regards to that war against the Black man and Black woman. And with Kevin Samuels, sometimes he may say some things that could be true, but as Dave explained, it's more of this Eurocentric. He's not going back with our original culture and heritage in the Afrocentric way. So he's just playing into what that system will put against us. So yeah, I don't really listen to him, but I heard some of his speeches.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah. And so with that, you know, moving into the next topic, I did a podcast on human nature, you know, because I love to study and analyze human nature and a lot of different things about culture and the cultural anthropology. That's kind of like, you know, a favorite pastime of mine. And I wanted to discuss these concepts that are arbitrarily being thrown out there where it's talking about toxic masculinity or toxic femininity. But I put up a clip and Arreal like responded, and I thought it was like really dope. We had a brief back and forth about the concept of toxic
femininity. You be having a full clip.
So
you be having a full clip of hollow points. As soon as you put up a post, here she come.
Oh no, it was it was something that I was building on as it relates to this So when people talk about patriarchy, there's a reverse side of patriarchy that we don't think about. And the reverse side of that is that you believe you don't recognize the full. I'm trying to find a way to say this that doesn't sound quasi-misogynistic. Patriarchy teaches us to look at women as being docile and kind of emotional and dainty, right? That's one of the facets of it. But the reality is that you're dealing with another human being. And the problem is that when you have that point of view and you see things, for example, I was talking about the fact that men, when they'll see an attractive high school teacher that manipulates a young boy into having sex with them, we will want to give the young boy props and kudos. And we'll say, hey, shout out to you, you were getting it in young. And the fact is, this young man was raped. This young man was exploited by a sexual predator. But we have a view where we don't believe that women have the capacity to be that. And, you talk about R. Kelly. R. Kelly spoke about the fact that he was abused when he was a child by one of the women in his family. And so, me and Arreal was building on that about this way that we have of over-sexualizing young boys, and even to the detriment of them being exploited by older women. And I felt like this was something that we should bring up. And so I want to kind of pose this to Arreal since she responded to my video and we was talking. Let me ask you, what does toxic femininity, look like to you, in your opinion, building on what we was talking about on IG?
So toxic femininity, okay. So I think I spoke on toxic masculinity with you before also. So toxic femininity, toxic masculinity. I don't believe it exists. I believe what people call that is just a lack of. So when I say that, to me, there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. It's a lack of masculinity, and toxic femininity would be a lack of. So when I say that, it's because the toxic femininity that people want to call it, you're not actually feminine. You're not acting in a way where you are supposed to act. You're not what you were created to be. So you're going outside of what it should be. So we call it toxic, but in actuality, it's not toxic. It's just you lack it. So like when we go to speak of toxic masculinity, it's not toxic masculinity. It's just a lack of masculinity, because if you had the masculinity, you wouldn't act a certain way towards women. And if you had the femininity of a woman, you wouldn't act that way towards children or men. So I believe it's lack of, and you're not taking on the behavior of what you were originated to be. So we are in this system that teaches women where some women, as you were speaking on, the women who are predators towards the young men, we teach young boys that it's okay for you to go and explore sexual relations at an early age. So when they go and explore, and these older women and have relations with them, they think it's okay. Like with Lil Boosie, he brought women in to do whatever with his sons and nephews. They think that's okay. So they don't look at it as the woman molesting or raping the young boys. They look at it bringing him into his manhood. Whereas if there was a man and younger females, little girls, they will look at it as, oh, he's a rapist, he's a predator. So both are, the man and the woman who's, taking the innocence of a child, whether it's a male child or a female child. So in the society that we live in, going back, I believe because we are in this Eurocentric society, and it teaches us that certain things are okay, and for us to look at certain things in a certain way, and because we don't have our own culture, our original culture, language, and heritage, that we don't understand that some of these things are not right. And we just continue to engage with this society and be a part of the society, and not, I lost my train of thought. We continue to be engaged in society that creates these toxic behaviors within us.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I see that. It's funny because we throw around the term masculinity, and even with Africa and femininity and masculinity, it's not monolithic. Like if you look at the Fulani, the way they perceive femininity and masculinity versus like the Wolof or the Seer, it'll be radically different. But the beautiful thing is they still have that cultural autonomy to define their paradigm in their world. But us being here in the West, we do have a lack of leadership. We do have a lack of masculinity. We do have a lack of femininity amongst our community and our people. So I want to swing that over to Dave. Let me ask you, how do you feel about hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's up?
Yo, like what we be going all the way around. Like, yo, the life that we have lived growing up in the 80s and 90s, it's just insane. It's just insane. Yo, when we was at school, I went to JM, right? For those that may be or familiar with the Richmond, Virginia area, I went to John Marshall High School, right? So, and I'm just using
John
John.
Marshall, shout out to y'all.
Yeah, shout out to Justice. Yo, it's Justice for Life North